Hey guys, thanks for coming to hang out here on the sessions. A friendly reminder that you can hang out with me in more than one place because I'm also on AMP. Just download the app, come hang out with us Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Just get a little more sessions in your life. We all need it.
Renee, how do you pronounce your last name? I've been
Paquette.
saying it's Paquette.
Paquette, yeah.
Okay, good.
Have you been saying it right?
I've been saying Pokiki the whole time. Yeah.
You know what? I like that better. Let that one fly.
Hey, listen, I'll probably rock it one or two times on the interview just to kind of be Prince Nana.
I love it. All right. Well, here we go, guys. Prince Nana here on the show. I am joined by quite literally some royalty, wrestling royalty at that as well. Here's my analysis of Prince Nana so far.
Oh
you and I have, we've been kind of like ships passing in the night. We pass each other in the hallway. We say hey to each other in catering. I'm going to throw this out there. You are like a beacon. I feel like I see you during the day and I'm like, this guy, you're always in a good mood. You've always got a big smile on your face. Like you're a good hang.
Thank
you. Is that always your disposition?
It is. And I think sometimes it's so much my disposition that people are afraid of that. They're like, okay, wait a minute. When he's upset, what actually goes down? And I really try to stay away from that as much as possible because, my mother raised me right. My dad, he passed away when I was 10 years old. It was only mom in the house. Luckily, mom was very strong, Black
have to be
African woman, and she instilled in us the spirit of positivity. Positivity will get you a longer way than being negative. And that's in every scenario. And that's why I try to smile. I try to, make everyone feel good because we're at work. And the most important thing before you go out that curtain is to make sure that you feel good, that you have that energy, that you have that, that gift that you're born with in you before you walk through those curtains. So
100%.
I like to just be positive. Especially when I see you. Forget it. You're the top dead gorgeous diva in the back. So I got to make sure I check you out. Make sure you're good. All right, Renee, you're looking good today. Let's do it.
I love it. You're going to be a recurring guest based off of that comment alone. This is great. Okay, so I've got some follow-ups on that because I feel like you and I can both fall under that category of like, I think people often say that about me, like, oh, you're just always in a good mood and you're always so nice.
Right.
That's not always true for me. My husband could certainly attest to that. Right. What is it like when you get mad? What happens? Ooh. What pushes your buttons? Is there like, does shit go down?
You know what? I just don't like disrespect. I've been respecting people so long in this business, Renee. Miss Prickatiki Beak, right? That's how I say it? No,
that's right.
But Renee, I've been so respectful like my whole career. I started in 96. So there was a different type of like approach to how you were, it didn't matter who you are. Chinese, black,
96.
Spanish, white.
Wow.
Right. There was a certain etiquette that you had in the business. And number one is that you just respect everybody that you're around. I don't care if you have a problem with them. If, just, hi, how you doing? Hello, nice to meet you. Because you never know who you're going to have to deal with going back down the totem pole. Or even when you're going up the totem pole. So, I have a couple of recorded scenarios that some of the boys talk about every now and then where I've blown up. And the only reason why I've blown up is because I believe in this business so much. I have, it's so important to me that if something is just maliciously there, I'm going to have to call it out. That's just how I am. That's just how I am. And that's the only thing that makes me go bananas. But first you'll see me, calm. I'm very cool, calm, collected. What's wrong? How come you're not talking? This and that. And then I'll just go straight to the source. And that's when everything just, and then I'm back.
Yeah, let them know. Okay. I feel like you've given me so many different things that I want to talk to you about, but I usually like to kind of start at the beginning. You mentioned your mom, being raised by your mom since you were 10 with your father passing away.
Yes.
I mentioned you being royalty. Let's
Yes.
start with that. You
Very
are
important.
very important. And this is not just a gimmick. You do come from it's the Ashanti tribe in Ghana, is that right?
The Akan people. Okay, the Akan people were a collection of people who traveled to the forest of the west, the west coast of Africa, where the gold and all of the, engineering was going down. So the Ashanti region is where my father's side of the family resides. They reside in a village called Kumawu, and there's another village called Kumasi. So there's, within these villages, they have different chiefs and they have different leaders. And my family and my great grandfather and my grandfather, they had a real good hand in, and obviously my great 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 grandfather, they all had great hands in what is, Ashanti today and what it was when it was at its peak. And a lot of people always ask me, well, are you related to Kofi Kingston? That's the first question they ask me. And
sure.
Usually I tell them no. But in all actuality, Kofi his family is from the same region that we're from. Okay. And, once I actually sit down with him face to face, we're great friends on Twitter. But once we sit down, finally give a hug, start really talking and digging and talking about family history, I'm pretty sure, we're going to realize how close we are as relatives more than anything.
Let's get out that family tree. I would love to see that. That's really
There's a lot of digging, but I've been lucky enough to not have to dig so deep because I guess we're first generation Americans that came from, other than obviously our cousins through the slave trade, but we're the first generation Americans who traveled from Ghana here. So, it's easier for me to kind of look up my family tree.
Sure.
Thank God.
Okay, so when we're talking about the royalty, what exactly does that mean and how does it relate to you?
Well, they can come with a goat, all right, with their goat, Renee, at any time of the day.
A goat dowry.
Cut the goat head, all right?
Oh.
They would cut the head on my feet, and I would be the new chief of the Ashanti tribe. Okay, right now the chief is Nana Seyao, all right? Okay, he's the chief of the Ashanti tribe, but my name is Nanose Ankra Banda. All right, so I was also named after the great Nanose Yao as well. So again, a lot of things can change. This is the new generation of Africa and the new generation of American Africans and African Americans. So I'm waiting for that day for them to come with the goat, cut it at my feet. All right, and I will be the new chief of the Ashanti.
Okay, listen, when it comes time to hang up the boots and step away, I mean, I say this is something that we should explore.
Hey, listen, I'll have you, your kids, you can come on over to Ghana, West Africa. We can have some fufu, all right?
What's fufu?
Oh,
what is that?
God, it's delicious. It's like sometimes it's like a potato or it can be a plantain and they mash it up. All right, and then you eat it in a soup with different meats, pork, chicken. It's unbelievable.
Sign me up. I would love that. That sounds delicious. Listen, any kind of potato. I've never met a potato I didn't like. So sign a girl up. Okay, so you're from Ghana. When did you come to, I know you came in an exchange program, but did you come to America before that?
Well, you see, this is how it actually worked. All right. I was born in Brooklyn. All right. If you want to know the real deal, Prince Nana was born in Brooklyn. All right. Okay. Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to all of my Brooklyn relatives. All right.
Are you still in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I have the big home here in Brooklyn, thanks to the grace of God and thanks to the wrestling business and my family lineage. I'm able to live nice in Brooklyn, which is very expensive now.
Yeah, it is.
But so that's pretty much where it is. I came. I was born in Brooklyn, went to Ghana, all right, learned the heritage there, met my grandmother before she died, both of them, thank God, got to explore Kumawu and Kamasi and Ga and Accra, and then came back to the United States with a full vision of what it is that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I went to John Dewey High School in Brooklyn, New York. All right. I was the most famous student in the school. Was the editor of the yearbook, was the senior speaker, was Mr. Everything at
Oh, okay,
graduation.
valedictorian.
I wasn't the valedictorian, but I was the senior speaker, and I was also the senior coordinator. I was smart, but I wasn't that smart. My friend Manon Shah, who's a big time doctor, shout out to him. He was the valedictorian. But, you know, I was a great leader at the school, and you know, while I was being a leader at John Dewey High School, I was also training to be, you know, pro wrestler in Brooklyn, New York with Johnny Raj. So, you know, my whole transition from when my dad died when I was 10 years old to when I turned 18 was a tremendous, tremendous growth and experience.
No doubt. To lose your dad. Do you have siblings?
Oh, yes. I have 5 other brothers. It's all together. It's 5.
Wow. Where are you in amongst the brothers?
Oh man, you guess where I am based on my career.
I think you're big brother.
No,
you're little brother.
I'm the baby.
You're the baby. Okay. Well, I wasn't sure because you had those leadership skills. I was like, maybe he is the older child. I wasn't sure.
You know what?
You weren't middle. I knew that you weren't middle.
You know what? I act like the older child. Like right now, I'm like the big brother to everybody. Like, what are you doing? Where are you going? You're going to Puerto Rico? How long? You know, I'm asking all the good questions.
Yeah.
But no, I'm actually the baby, and I'm just lucky to have followed in the footsteps of my brothers and sisters who are tremendously, tremendously successful in their fields as well. And we're just, as a family, we're just so happy where we are. And we try to like rub some of that off onto our friends and people that we know as well.
I want to break some of that down a little bit because I feel like this deserves a spotlight, probably being shone on your mother. I'm, you know, having your dad up until 10 years old. And then from 10 to 18, like you said, those are such pivotal years of who are you? What kind of a man are you going to be? What has been instilled in you? And I guess that's where, you know, you mentioned your mom being this strong woman raising these kids. When did she come to America? She came
to America when she was 30. I'm sorry, when she was 25. Okay. So like this is maybe about 6 years before I was born. I was born in 1979.
Yeah.
And from there, and she had already 3 other kids that were back home with her with her mother. And she was kind of getting things in order here.
Wow. That's always fascinating to me when people are making that move to the United States. And it's like, you're taking such a leap of faith in like bettering things for your family, of course, with that being the main objective. But to leave family behind while setting things up, like, I feel like that gets kind of brushed over a little bit of like, that's a huge deal for somebody to go and do.
It is a huge deal, especially when you look at who my sisters are today. You know what I'm saying? Like who my sisters and my brothers are today. Like if we didn't have Doris, if we didn't have Mama Ankra, Mama Nana, you know, we wouldn't have a doctor. You know, we wouldn't have, you know, one of the head nurses at Presbyterian Hospital. We wouldn't have an attorney. We wouldn't have a pro wrestler with, you know, ROH and with AEW. None of that. And also a grandson who's about to be a doctor next month. I'm going to his graduation. So, you know, it's just, you know, she really, and what her career was, you know, and yeah, we have royal background and stuff like that, but we can't always go for those checks. You know what I mean? We can't always go to the chief and say, hey, can you cut me $1 million check? So you got to prove yourself. You got to work. So my mom, she got into the workforce in the United States real early, real quick, and she stayed with it for almost 30 years. You know, she broke her back, you know, in the hotel and in the hotel trade. Yeah. You know, and you know, she was a leader in that particular role. And whenever I go to the hotels today, you know, I see the ladies cleaning the room. I always, always, always leave $5. You know,
yeah.
and that's something my mom told me to do because she used to also coordinate that department also. And it's very important because, you know, yeah, they're getting paid pretty decently, but that's a lot of heavy lifting and bending up and this and that and
Yes.
go to the next room and then you're dealing with disgusting stuff. So,
Totally.
you know, she definitely busted her butt and she deserves a lot of the accolades for who I am, the rest of the family.
For all of you guys, like, wow. Was there, did you feel a pressure to be successful? All of you?
Oh,
Like, did you guys compete with each other? Like, for you
oh
guys
my
all to be
gosh.
successful in different fields is pretty, like, insane.
You know, it's funny that you say compete because my mom didn't want us to compete, but she definitely made sure that we did compete. And she let us know, you know, hey, listen, everyone, even though we all take care of each other, I can go ask favors, but she let us know, hey, listen, everyone's for themselves out here. Okay. I don't care who you are. Everyone is for themselves. You got to get your shit together. Oops.
Yeah. It's
You
okay.
know, you got to get your stuff together. You got to make sure you have something, you know, that you're focusing on. And you know, being in the wrestling business, my mom, she actually supported it, but like didn't want to see me fail
Sure.
because I loved it so much, you know,
Yeah.
when I was a kid. So she couldn't really like differentiate, you know, me loving it from when I was a kid to becoming a business and a brand today with
Yeah.
the embassy and the mobile embassy and Prince Nana and so on and so forth. So, you know, now when she looks at it, yeah, she looks at it still like, you know, are you leaving next week? Are you staying home? You know, she likes
Yeah.
the staying home part. I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta get a, you know what I mean? I gotta work. But at the end of the day, she's very, very thankful, and I'm thankful, and you know, it's all a part of the grind. You know,
Sure.
please, you've been doing this at a very high level yourself. I see sometimes that you're tired, and sometimes you don't want to say hello, but you do, and I do too. You
Hey,
know,
that's what we do.
that's what we
It
do.
is funny. Like I find I guess more so now too, because I feel like I'm juggling so many different things. Like
Right,
you know, going to AEW is not my only job. I've
right,
got this
right,
to do. I've got a baby to raise.
right.
Sometimes I'm out doing stuff with the Cincinnati Bengals. So like my brain is functioning at a different level kind of now than it used to be, where before I felt like I had more time to bullshit. Now I'm like, what am I doing? I've got to be somewhere.
Exactly.
I've got to
There's
respond to an
no
email.
time.
There's no time.
Forget it.
No time to do
I
anything.
had to make sure that my assistant got my Dunkin' Donuts and
Yes.
my bagel. All right, even though I'm not even drinking or eating, but it just had to be here because forget it. After
You
this,
got
I
to
got to
sneak
run and go take
bites.
care of something else next. And you know, I was telling one of your executive producers this. I had no idea until like maybe 2 months. I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago that you're Moxley's wife. Congratulations, Miss Moxley. You know, it's funny as hell because I've known your husband his whole career. He's known me my whole career,
Yeah.
and it's so great to see where he was and where he is now. And he is one of the guys from when he was on the Indies to when he went to WWE to where he is now that has always,
The
hey man,
same.
the
Yeah.
same. Hey, you know, I get a grunt from him and I'm happy. I'm elated.
It's funny because I think a lot of people get offended by the grunts. I'm like,
I love it.
it's not a personal thing,
No,
especially like when he's at work.
he's got
I
to
always
think. He's in his head.
Yes. It's so funny because when him and I first started dating, I didn't quite understand that because like we're dating and we're like both at WWE and I would pass him in the hallway and I'm like, oh my God, he like didn't even just look at me. What is going on? And I would take it so personally. And then I was like, oh, he is in the zone. He's
The
thinking about
zone.
his match. He's thinking about a promo. He's
Yes.
thinking about somebody else's match. Like it's when we're at work, which is probably why you didn't know that we were married.
Oh
A lot
yeah.
of the times we go completely separate ways during the
Different
day.
ways.
I'm
Like
doing
you
my thing, he's doing his thing, and I see him at the end of the show.
that's it. And I love it because it's like you're completely swamped and you're writing stuff and you're putting together, you know, and he's getting his stuff together and I'm in the catering area as usual.
Hey, catering's where to be. I love it.
But it's definitely a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Well, thank you. Okay, so let's get back into 1996 and
gosh.
you finding your way into professional wrestling. You're in
Yes.
Brooklyn, you're in New York, you're trying to find a way to get your foot in the door as a professional wrestler. What did that look like back then? Because we had very minimal resources.
We had very minimal. It was 96, 95, 96. You know, I was in my sophomore year, maybe of high school. I had to beg mom, oh, mom, please, no. I begged, cried. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not doing football, nothing. But all right, you got to do it, but you got to use your money to do it. And went on the grind. I'm really good at sales. I even have a sales business right now where I do B2B sales for businesses. But back then, I did some research, went to the library, made some calls. I even called WWE at one point. I think I wrote them. You know, I was feeling to get in contact with them as a kid.
Sure.
So I wrote them, and they wrote me back and like, "Hey, kid, great. You know, there's a couple of schools we can recommend." They recommended Larry Sharpe.
Do you remember who responded to you? Like, who would have responded to a letter like that?
You know what? I if I really think deep, I would remember because I spoke to this person a couple of times. And actually, I ended up knowing a lot of people over the years just because of like, you know, I had such great skills at getting in contact with people and making them respond. But it was a woman in the marketing department.
Okay.
And, you know, I ended up seeing her a couple of times at like some of the WWE house shows back in the day. But anyway, they wrote me and they said, Larry Sharpe, you should go train with him. He's in Jersey. But Larry Sharpe was too far from Brooklyn for me. I was 16, 15 years old to travel on the train at that time. So luckily I found Johnny Rods, and I didn't even know who Larry Sharpe was. But then, you know, they said, oh, go to Johnny Rods. I had no idea who he was. I looked him up, you know, I was like, who the hell? I was like, I never heard of this guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Whatever. Let me go see what's going on. So I went there as a 15-year-old and I spoke to Johnny Rods, and I was a photographer at that time, also in the music industry while I was in high school. And
I feel like this is very similar to Paul Heyman's story a little bit.
It probably is. It probably is. I'm a different type of Paul Heyman. But I was a photographer in the music industry, and I, you know, introduced myself to Johnny, and I became a photographer at Johnny Rod School. So I was photographing Devon Dudley, Big Vito, the Spanish Angels from ECW, Taz, all of these guys, Tommy Dreamer. And I started initially training. I had to beg Johnny too when I was about 16 years old. All right, I had to get permission and I had to get a waiver signed. And I was the first young student at that time that Johnny had ever trained. Everyone that he ever trained before that were like grown men, 18 and over, and like not 18 and over, they're probably 20 and over, whatever.
Yeah.
And basically that's how I got in. I used to, you know, do photographs for Johnny. We used to do all of the promo photographs, and then I became a referee, and I went through a lot of harsh, vigorous training. I'm telling you, like, the training I went through was not, like, it was not easy training. And I still remember it today, and it's still something that I use, and I'm still in the way that I work and so on and so forth. Thank God I had guys like Big Vito and Devon Dudley around that were able to throw me around and show me, like, the different techniques on protecting myself, so on and so forth. And Princeton, I was born from there. Like, my first match was probably with Johnny Rods' school, which at that time he just called it the Johnny Rods Academy. And since I was so creative and savvy, and I was, like I told you, the editor of the yearbook, that I actually started doing Johnny Rods programs for him.
Okay.
And all of his event flyers. And I was like, Johnny, let's just name your school the World of Unpredictable Wrestling. He was like, wait a minute, wait, I like that. And it stuck. And he still calls it that today. And it's a beautiful thing. And since then, I was just creating and creating. I've helped guys with their wrestling names. And, you know, I've helped, you know, people with faction names. And, you know, the embassy name was born and a whole bunch of other stuff. So
it's kind of funny to think back to like what that time was, like late 90s. when you really just had to hit the pavement and like
Yes.
figure it out, wear a bunch of different hats. How can I get in there in some way? Yes, I'll be the photographer. Yes, I'll do the programs. Yes, I'll be the referee. Yes, I'll do whatever. Where, and I'm not saying that it's not, I'm sure people still have to like grind like that today, but now it's just like, no, I'm a wrestler and this is a thing that I do.
Exactly.
As opposed to like, no, let me spin all these different plates until somebody's going to take a chance on me. Like, I just feel like that's changed a lot in the last like 10 years.
Oh, because of social media and because, you know, everyone's so smart. They know how to make money and they don't need to grind anymore. Back then, you really had to hit the pavement, like you said, and make a name for yourself. And if you wanted to be in the wrestling business, yes, you had to have all these hats, but you had to be known for one hat. You could do the other hats, but you had to be known for one hat. So that's why quickly, because when I was in the music industry also, I would focus on chasing these, artists down, doing photography for them. And I really got fed up with that at one point in time. And I said to myself, I can't, if I want to be the star, no offense to these stars, and I love them to death, and I love working with them, and I love helping to enhance them and make them look important and stuff like that. But I want to be the star, and I wasn't being selfish. So I just put all those hats down, and even though I can do them, I would get bookings from people out of the blue for $2,000 to do photography. But because my love and my focus was in professional wrestling, I kept my focus there, and I was able to build my brand and keep the awareness, of who I am, in front of WWE and in front of those type of companies at that time, Ring of Honor, and hey, if they weren't going to use me at that time, at least I was able to keep practicing, because I always looked at the independents and I always looked at companies that weren't on the major scale as like a chance for me to practice. If I was able to make a couple of extra dollars, of course, that's great. And, I'm not the type of guy to work for free, but, practicing at these indie shows, that's what got me where I am today. I mean, for some people, it's 5 years. For some people, it's 20 years. It took me 20 years, but I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. And, it's really funny because that being able to get that practice in, when you can kind of fly under the radar, you can try things out. This works, this doesn't work. The stakes aren't as high. You can kind of just like mess around a little bit and hone your craft in. Right. And now I almost feel like a little bit bad for people that are coming up now, where it's like everything's on the internet, everything's recorded, everything's got a spotlight, everything is being like devoured in a certain way. Where I don't know, like I always feel lucky that I was able to like learn who I was as a broadcaster, like on a show that nobody was watching. Right. But when you see someone, they're like, cool, you're ready. The red light's on, the spotlight's on you, and they're not ready for that. And then you crumble on that big stage. It's very unforgiving.
It's very unforgiving. And I try to tell as many of the new guys now, hey, listen, go out there, find a company that is up and coming, or a company that is out there doing their thing, implement yourself into that company and start working your ass off to make that company the it company of that area. That's smart. All we ever did. That's all we did. The New York guys, we went out to these companies. We worked hard with each other. We did some crazy stuff, but we made sure that we practiced. We did it safe. And we made sure we knew in our hearts that we were the best at what we did. And the fruits of that labor from doing those small little shows is what it is today. And there's a lot of other stories like that. Like there was a company, Pro Wrestling Syndicate, back in the day. That was a very small promotion. There's a lot of stars that came out of that company.
No doubt.
If you really dig deep. And there's so many other stories out there. And I always tell new pro wrestlers and managers and girls and guys, get off the internet.
Yes.
The internet is your tool to market, not your tool to dwell.
To validate or dwell or whatever.
You don't have to like everyone's post to think they like you. No, we don't want that. We just want you to update us on what you got going on. And if you want to go on a rant, you can go on a rant too. But we're not, you don't have to just sit and rely on what's going on the internet, on social media to validate who you are. Get out there and get on the pavement, my friends.
And it's hard to do. Like, I get it. I understand it, especially like, I mean, I guess it's funny because when you look at pro wrestling and you can feel from the crowd whether they're into something or not. It's like that theater reaction. You get the applause, you get the boos, you get the yays, you get all those things. Yet you still want to like double down on it. Check your Twitter, see what people are saying. You need to get like all of those reactions, but it's nice if you can not do that and just.
I mean, it's
the
always
people that are there feel it. Go off of that.
They'll go off on it, and it's good to look at your Twitter and laugh at the good and the negative because people can say whatever they want, and it's just good that people are talking, and it's a tool to get your name out there a little bit more. So social media is a great, enhancement tool for today's wrestler, but nothing gets you signed more than the work. You know, whether you're in the ring, whether you're a reporter, like you need to figure out what your deal is and just do it. You know what I'm saying? Do it. Take criticism from some of the people that are the pros today, implement it into what you're doing, and keep moving forward. As you keep going up the ladder, help people. Because one of my biggest thing that I've learned growing up, and this was from a camp that I went to, it's called Camp Dudley. That's where I get the
okay.
Yeah, I get it from Camp Dudley. It's the oldest boys camp in America.
Okay.
Look it up. It's in Westport, New York. But one of the sayings that we have, and I live by this, and it's really something I believe in, the other fellow first. It's not about me. It's about my brothers and sisters. Like, if I can extend a hand to help someone, I would do that and put them in front of me and for them to be okay and then worry about myself afterwards. And that's how I am. That's why I am the way I am, back with the highs and stuff like that. Because it's not about me. Like, I already am a superficial supreme being.
Right.
So it's my job to move you up.
Move it along.
Exactly.
Push people
I figured it out. Thank
God.
I'm still figuring it out. But,
Okay, so you come into business 96. We're now in 2023.
Jesus Christ.
I know, right? Wow. Buckle up. You've seen so many different versions of what pro wrestling is to what it is now. Talk to me about what some of those like tent pole things are that have gone from point A to where we are now.
I was talking to a couple of guys the other day, and I said to them, and they looked at me like I was crazy, but hey, I'm crazy. But I said to them, hey, back in the day when I was wrestling, I enhanced a move. No, what move is this? Because they're looking at Prince Nana like he's a clean move. I was like, yeah, it was the move where you run and you splash the guy in the corner and then you hit the ropes and then you hit them with your ass.
Okay.
I said, when I started wrestling, I started doing that first. I kind of just said that. I was like, I don't know who was doing it, but I know that in the popular areas that I was in New York, where it was popping, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of you guys don't know about that because you weren't around. You were like kids, you know what I'm saying? But in that time frame, everyone was watching that stuff. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I was one of the guys doing these new innovative moves, and I said I was the guy that started doing that first. Oh, it was Rikishi. And I was like, listen, I love Rikishi. He was doing, moonsaults and stuff like that. Like, give me one move. You know what I'm saying? So,
give me the stink face. Come on.
He did the stink face with the whole, I didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like rub my ass and indulge in that. You know what I'm saying? It looked great for him, not for me. You know what I'm saying? And with me, it was a running ass, boom, hit them in the face, move off. And, as far as like, it's things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's been so long. And, like those days seem so dark now. Like, it's been so long like one of my greatest inspirations in the wrestling business is a gentleman by the name of Jim Kettner. You know, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he was one of the gentlemen that created the Super 8 tournament.
Okay.
The ECWA Super 8 tournament at that time, every year was one of the most elite tournaments to be in. And it was like, if you were in that tournament, the next year you were getting signed to the WWE and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there were like different things back then that you know, kind of differed from the way it is today. I think today the wrestling scene is a little bit congested,
Sure.
you know, and I think that's because there aren't as many official pro wrestling schools like there used to be. Because you got to remember, back in the day, it was like, okay, in order to be known as a professional, you know, who's your trainer? Blah blah blah. Did they train at WWE? Did they work at WWE for more than 10 years? Are they a legend? Oh, you didn't know, this person's no good. So it was kind of like people would actually look at that. But these days, you meet people, some of them signed to AEW. You're like, where'd you train? They're like, I'm self-taught.
Yeah, backyard wrestlers.
You know, and I respect that too. You know, and the thing that I respect about that is that, okay, they learned, you know, in the backyard, but they also took the time to learn as they went. You understand what I'm saying? So the ways that we did things back then and the way things are now, they're definitely different, you know, and I think the main story to all of this is to do the work, you know, do the work, you know, get in that ring, get on that camera, get on your microphone, get on your computer and write some shit down. And you know, closed mouths don't get fed. You know, if you have ideas, I think it's best that you pass them along. Don't sit on them, because, you know, what else
wheel gets the grease, right?
Exactly. What else do you have to lose? By the way, how do you like my embassy?
I was just going to ask you about this. Okay, so let's get into some Ring of Honor talk and all the stuff that you're doing between Ring of Honor, AEW, now with Mogul Embassy. This little hot combination that we've got going on. But let's talk Ring of Honor first. You know, so much of the duration of your career there to now seeing what Tony Khan has been doing with Ring of Honor under the AEW umbrella. How has that changed what Ring of Honor used to be to what it could be now?
Oh, forget it. Ring of Honor, you know, Ring of Honor had deep pockets. All right, when Sinclair Broadcasting owned it, they had deep pockets. But I'm just going to be straight up. I don't care. Abusive power. Abusive power, you know, and they didn't necessarily know they were abusing the power. So I don't want to make it seem like, you know, whatever. But when Carrie Silken.
What a nice guy he is, huh?
Shout out to Carrie. But when Carrie Silken owned the business, he had his heart and soul, and he had his foot in the business. He had his foot in it. And, you know, it was his, you know, it was his thing. It was like, this is for me, like, you know. And I kind of feel that with Tony. And that's why the juices are flowing again, because he, as an individual who loves pro wrestling, and that he is the new CEO of this, you know, famous, you know, world acclaimed company, he does not want to see this lose under his direction. So that's why Ring of Honor, anyone who's on the roster right now, anyone who's working right now, is very lucky that we're working under this new administration. And don't get me wrong, we had people who, you know, really loved what they were doing during the last administration, but the structure was way too corporate. You know, this one is corporate also, but it was, you know, the people that owned it really didn't care about it. It was just like something they bought because it was like, oh, it might make some money, whatever, this and that. You know, Tony's not worried about the money right now, even though money is an issue.
It's a passion move for Tony, more so than it just being about the business. Of course, business is business, and, you know, the man makes money based off of that. But when you see the passion of what he cares about in pro wrestling and being able to funnel those things together is really cool. Of
course. And it's a beautiful thing to see Ring of Honor go from, you know, a company that a lot of people don't know I did a lot for the company behind the scenes as well.
Okay.
To see it go from being what it was to what it is today, almost like a cornerstone for the rest of the major companies in America and in the world. So, I'm just glad to see that it's doing well. Glad to be back as one of the, cornerstones in the company. You know, Out of everyone that's on the roster ever, I think like I was able to bring the most character to the company, and continue to, bring that character to the company in a different way with beasts like Brian Cage and Gates of Agony, who are killing it right now as the 6-man world champions. And then on the flip side of things, with the cool, calm, and collected Swerve Strickland.
This guy.
Let me tell you something.
Talk to me about Swerve. That guy.
Let me tell you something. I've known Swerve Strickland his whole career, and to see him go from the day one when I met him, hi, how are you? Hey, hi, how are you, sir? Nice to meet you, sir. To who he is today, unbelievable. So proud of him. He is going to be a problem. He is going to be a problem in the wrestling industry. Give it 6 more months of what we have planned and what we're going to put together, and the affiliates that we have involved that we're going to be bringing into the picture. Renee.
Ooh, I'm excited to see.
You remember the last time we had a burger together? We're going to have some shrimp cocktail together next time, all right?
That was a good burger, but I will take you up on a little shrimp cocktail. Let's go. Let's get a seafood tower, if you will.
There you
Put
go.
that on ice.
I love
Let's
cocktails.
go. Swerve really does, like, watching him, like, of course, watching him in the ring and watching him as a performer, he's outstanding. But seeing the way his mind works and the hustle behind the things that you can see that he wants to accomplish, it's not so much as I would even say that it's a chip on his shoulder, but just like the need to like continue to expand what pro wrestling is. I mean, even when you see like the names from outside pro wrestling that he brings in and wants to attach himself to, and you guys must connect on a certain level. I mean, you came from the music industry as well. But yeah, I mean, just for you guys to have that connection combined with pro wrestling is really neat.
It's right now it's now or never, because like everything came together, and it's not like I was sitting here like, oh, I gotta get close to Swerve because he's working with Rick Ross. Like, I'm not that. Like I told you, I stopped doing the photography thing to focus on me. So like, it's nice to meet Rick Ross and it's nice to meet this rapper and that rapper, but we're all trying to feed our families here. That's why we're here. Rick Ross is showing up to AEW because he loves this stuff and he realizes and recognizes who Tony Khan is, who Swerve is, what the embassy mogul is about, and they want to be involved with it. And that's why I fell in love with Swerve. Swerve, learned the craft for the last 15 years, did it at a level where he was just, hey, putting guys over. Hey, I'm just here. I'm, not really being too loud, because he knew there were people in front of him. And, hey, how you doing? Doing great, phenomenal matches. Some matches were great. Some matches weren't great. He learned, he cried, he has kids, so on and so forth. Now, with his, with everything he's learned and the connections he's made, and with the things that I've learned and the connections I've made, the people I've worked with in the music industry and the people I've worked with in the wrestling industry, together,
it's about to be popping off.
Oh my gosh! Together, it's going to be nuts, because already the people outside of the industry are looking like, okay, we want to be a part of this. What can we do to enhance this more? Well, and me and Swerve now are on a different level of our relationship. Like, our relationship before was great, but now it's even more better, because I guess deep down inside, and I didn't know this, but deep down inside, maybe I wanted to work with Swerve, and I think deep down inside, and he probably didn't know it, he wanted to work with the embassy and with me. So like, with it going on right now, it's a match made in heaven. I just feel sorry for a lot of the, the people out there, the pillars and all of these different things, all these things I hear, All right. I really feel sorry for these guys because, it's time for us to take what's ours. I'm
What?
sorry to start talking crazy like that on the show, Renee.
No, I love it. Let it fly. It's true though. I mean, you look at your career, you look at what Swerve brings to the table. I think this new unit coming together is definitely perking a lot of interests.
Don't get me wrong. Brian Cage is a monster too.
Sure is.
He's my original monster, and I think there's no other. Forget it. Like, since I came here through the grace of God in July, there's no. Yes, we've lost a couple of matches, but there's no force greater than the mobile embassy.
What all do you guys want to accomplish when you look at maybe it's other acquisitions that you guys are bringing into Mogul Embassy? We've got this gigantic roster, whether you're pilfering from people in AEW, you're looking at who's on the Ring of Honor roster. There's tons of people to kind of pick and choose from.
Renee, we're not looking for any slackers.
No.
We're not looking. You gotta be ready to do this. We are at the peak of what we call readiness. Okay, yeah. Like we're ready to go out there, ready to move the dial, and to change the outcome of what people expect things to be. And you'll feel it. You'll see it in the promos. You'll see it in the work in the ring that we're tired, okay? That we're tired of just going through the motions. We do this. We're dangerous people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stress it. It looks like a joke. Oh, we're in the money. But I'm a very dangerous individual when it comes to this business of wrestling and what we do in the ring and how the business is presented. So I just want to make that clear to anyone on the AEW and ROH roster that please do not take this as a joke or take this lightly. We're going to be working hard in the ring. We're going to be working hard in the back. We're going to be stretching people. We're going to be politicking. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that everyone in our stable is happy and that our families are fed and that we can go home with a smile on our face. And that's pretty much, this is where we're starting. We're starting with Darby. Darby is someone that Swerve has trained him to be who he is today. Look at that match. Sure. Look at the match he won that day. Yeah. The only reason why he won that match against Swerve is because Swerve taught him how to be that way, how to be a beast. Okay, and we're just testing him out. And it's on to the next story with Keith Lee. Someone else that we need to teach a lesson very soon. And I'm not fond of a lot of people.
You're not fond of who?
I'm not fond of a lot of people. All right. I might say hi, but that don't mean I like you.
Sure. You got to be nice to someone's face. Doesn't mean you're going to not feel a different way when they have their back to you.
Right? I like you, though. You and Max.
You better keep it that way. I'm watching you. My last question to you, Prince Nana.
Oh, man.
You've been in this world for such a long time. Am I doing the math on this right to say 27 years? It's what it says on your Instagram. Is that right?
What, in the business?
Yeah.
I've been in the business 27 years since 96.
I was trying to do the math on that, and I'm not quite there, but I'm glad that we landed at that number. What do you want your legacy to be in professional wrestling?
I want my kids to be able to look back and say, wow, my dad put in a lot of work. He was focused on what he had to do, and I want to do the same thing, whether it's be a doctor or whatever it is they want to be and dream of. I want them to know that if they think it, they can do it. Because with this, what I did in pro wrestling it was a dream. I used to have posters on the wall and stuff like that. And I knew that in order to get to that dream, I had to put in the work. And as long as I have that story, whether I make it on the big stage or, a bigger stage or whatever you want to call it, at least that story is there for them to look and say, wow, my dad was able to do that. So I know that I'll be able to do this, whether it's be a lawyer, a doctor, this and that, and my legacy in the wrestling business is to be one of the all-time great, performers in the business. You know, one of the greatest performers in the business. I'm talking up there with Bobby Heenan. And,
Love that.
you know, up there with guys, you know, forget it. I could go through tons of names of different people, but I just want to be able to be that guy that people say, hey, listen, that guy made a lot of stars. He made a lot of stars, including himself, but he really made a lot of stars, whether they were in the embassy or in the mobile embassy, or whether they were opposition to us in a, you know, story market. We make stars, from CM Punk to Tommaso Ciampa to all of these guys. You know, and I say CM Punk because he came into Ring of Honor after me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I always look at things like that. You know what I'm saying? I was working at a high level too, and obviously he's gotten way higher than me. But, you know, at the same time, when I see him, I give him a big hug, show him love. The Young Bucks, I see them, show them, they give them a huge, big hug. Yeah. I see certain guys that I've worked with for the last 20 years, and I don't care what they have going on, I got to give them a hug because we wouldn't be here without each other, and the business wouldn't be where it is, you know, with this change and this new, you know, new direction of something really big that people can count on other than the other big thing. It wouldn't be here without us. I want to keep on doing that wrestling business.
I love that. Well, Prince Nana, I'm so happy I got to have you on here. You are just as fantastic as everybody thinks and knows that you are. I'm looking forward to the shrimp cocktail.
Oh man, it's
let a girl know.
It's gonna be delicious, and I will make sure that I set up a time and a date with you very, very soon, so you can enjoy that.
Please do.
Thank you for having me on, Renee. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And again, with you, keep doing your thing. You're one of the greatest interviewers in the business. I consider you the Barbara Walters of professional wrestling.
Oh, I love that. Get that tagline on a shirt. Let's book it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Send your best to your mother because she just sounds like an absolute dream. Next time we're out that way, we got to get her out.
Definitely got to meet her. Thank you so much, Renee. Have a great one. It's going to be hot.
It is.
Enjoy.
Bye.